In the timeline of American history, the figure of Sitting Bull stands as an indomitable testament to the resilience and sovereignty of the Lakota. Born Tatanka Iotanke, this formidable leader emerged from the windswept plains of the Dakota Territory, a realm where the relentless forces of nature mirrored the indomitable spirit of its indigenous inhabitants. From his earliest days, Sitting Bull exhibited a profound connection to the ancestral lands, a bond that would fuel his unwavering resolve in the face of encroaching colonial forces. Early life and formation. Born in 1831 along the Grand River in present-day South Dakota, Sitting Bull entered the world amidst the vast plains that would become the stage for his life's defining moments. From a young age, Sitting Bull was recognized for his strength and keen intelligence. He was deeply rooted in his traditions of his people, the Hunkpapa Lakota, and his upbringing was steeped in the customs and spiritual beliefs that would guide him throughout his life. As a child, Sitting Bull was known as Jumping Badger. His father, returned again, was a respected warrior, and his mother, her Holy Door, was known for her nurturing spirit. Sitting Bull's early years were marked by the rhythms of Lakota life, by hunting buffalo and participating in communal rituals and learning the skills necessary for survival on the plains. Emergence as a leader. Sitting Bull's journey to leadership began at a very early age. At age 14, he participated in his first raid against the Crow, a rivalry tribe. Earning the right to be called a warrior, his bravery in battle and his ability to inspire others quickly established him as a prominent figure within his tribe. By his mid-20s, Sitting Bull had risen to the role of war chief, known for his tactical acumen and his unwavering commitment to the well-being of his people. During this period, the Lakota faced increasing encroachment from European settlers and the U.S. government. The construction of forts along the Bozeman Trail in the mid-1860s and the subsequent Red Cloud's War intensified the conflict between the Lakota and the U.S. military. Sitting Bull, alongside other leaders, fiercely resisted these incursions, understanding that the survival of their way of life was at stake. Spiritual leadership and vision. Sitting Bull's leadership extended beyond the battlefield. He was also a revered spiritual leader known for his deep connection to the Great Spirit and his ability to inspire through his visions. In 1868, Sitting Bull had a profound vision that would shape his destiny. He saw soldiers falling into his camp like grasshoppers from the sky, which he interpreted as a sign that the Lakota would achieve a significant victory against their enemies. This vision bolstered Sitting Bull's resolve to resist the U.S. government's efforts to confine the Lakota to reservations. He steadfastly refused to sign treaties that would restrict his people's freedom and way of life. His spiritual guidance and unwavering commitment to his people's sovereignty made him a symbol of resistance and hope of the Lakota people and Native Americans abroad. The Battle of the Little Bighorn. Sitting Bull's vision came to fruition in 1876 during the Battle of the Little Bighorn. By this time, tensions had reached a boiling point, and the U.S. government had ordered the Lakota to return to their reservations, but Sitting Bull and his followers refused to comply. In response, the U.S. Army launched a campaign to force them into submission. And on June 25th of 1876, General George Armstrong Custer and his 7th Cavalry attacked a large encampment of Lakota, North Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors along the Little Bighorn River. Led by Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and other native war leaders, the Native American forces decisively defeated Custer's troops. This victory was a moment of immense pride and triumph for the Lakota and their native allies, but it also intensified the U.S. government's efforts to subdue them. The exile and return. In the aftermath of the Battle of the Little Bighorn, Sitting Bull and his followers sought refuge in Canada. For 4 years, they lived in relative peace, but the harsh conditions and dwindling resources eventually forced them to return to the modern-day United States. In 1881, Sitting Bull surrendered to the U.S. government, hoping to ensure the survival of his people. Despite his surrender, Sitting Bull remained a steadfast advocate for his people's rights. He joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show for a time, using the platform to share the Lakota story with a wider audience. However, his heart remained with his people, and he continued to resist efforts to assimilate them into American society. Final years and legacy. Sitting Bull's defiance and influence made him a target for the U.S. government, particularly as the ghost dance movement gained momentum among Native American tribes. The ghost dance, which we'll cover in more detail in a later video, was a spiritual movement that promised the return of the buffalo and the disappearance of white settlers. This alarmed U.S. authorities, fearing that Sitting Bull would use his influence to incite rebellion. They ended up ordering his arrest. On December 15th of 1890, Indian police arrived at Sitting Bull's cabin to take him into U.S. custody. In the ensuing struggle, Sitting Bull was shot and killed. His death marked the end of an era of fierce resistance, but his legacy still lives on today. Sitting Bull's unwavering commitment to his people's freedom, his spiritual leadership, and his role in the Battle of the Little Bighorn and other battles cemented his place as one of the most iconic and revered figures in Native American history. Crazy Horse, a name that echoes through history as a symbol of resistance, courage, and unwavering dedication to his people. This legendary Lakota Sioux warrior stood as a beacon of defiance against the overwhelming forces of U.S. expansion. Today, we dive into the life of Crazy Horse, and in this video, you will see the man who led his people through some of the most heroic battles in indigenous American history. Born around 1840 near the Black Hills of South Dakota, Crazy Horse was given his name for his bravery and his ability to ride like no other. As a young man, he quickly earned a reputation as a fearless warrior known for his stealth and skill in battle. But his true legend would be forged in the fires of war later on in his life. The Lakota people, part of the great Sioux Nation, had long lived on the expansive plains, thriving in their traditional way of life. But as the U.S. government pushed westward, they began to encroach upon the land that had been sacred to the Lakota Sioux for generations. It was during this time of mounting tension that Crazy Horse rose to prominence. Not just as a warrior, but as a leader who understood the larger fight for survival of his people. The fight was no longer just about one battle, it was indeed a war for the soul of his people. In 1876, Crazy Horse joined forces with Sitting Bull and other Lakota leaders to resist the U.S. military's relentless pursuit. The battle they would fight at the Little Bighorn River would become one of the most famous confrontations in American history. On June 25th of 1876, the day of the Battle of the Little Bighorn, now known as Custer's Last Stand, General George Armstrong Custer, with his 7th Cavalry, had underestimated the fighting prowess of the Lakota, the Cheyenne, and the Arapaho forces. In a decisive and devastating blow, Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, and their warriors overwhelmed Custer's troops, forcing them into a humiliating defeat. It was Crazy Horse's strategic brilliance and leadership that played a pivotal role in securing this victory. His warriors, armed with unparalleled knowledge of the land and the art of warfare, wiped out Custer's forces in a matter of hours. It was indeed a moment of triumph for Crazy Horse and his people, but one that would set the stage for even greater struggles ahead. Following their victory, Crazy Horse continued to lead his people, but peace was elusive. The U.S. government, emboldened by the defeat, sought to break the spirit of the Lakota. Crazy Horse fought on, leading his people through harrowing winters and countless skirmishes with the U.S. government. But as much as he resisted, the tide of history was indeed against him. In May of 1877, after a long period of evasion, Crazy Horse surrendered to U.S. forces, hoping to ensure his people's survival. But this was not the end of his story. In a tragic turn of events, Crazy Horse was imprisoned at Fort Robinson in Nebraska in September of 1877. While in custody, he was fatally stabbed by a U.S. soldier. The loss of Crazy Horse was felt deeply by his people, and his death marked the end of an era in indigenous American history. Though Crazy Horse's life was short, his legacy endures, and he became a symbol of resistance and honor. A warrior who fought not just for his tribe, not just for his people, but for the survival of his way of life. His name, his story, and his bravery continue to inspire generations, reminding us all of the courage it takes to fight for what is right, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Today, Crazy Horse is remembered by a memorial that stands in the Black Hills, a tribute to this great warrior. It is a reminder that Crazy Horse's story is far from forgotten, and it lives on in the hearts of those who honor his spirit of courage, honor, and freedom. Crazy Horse, a name that will never fade, a warrior whose bravery shaped the history of the Lakota and of indigenous American struggle for survival. Sequoyah, also known as George Guess, was a Cherokee polymath and visionary who is credited with creating the writing system for the Cherokee language. Sequoyah was born in the late 18th century, and Sequoyah's work not only transformed his people's ability to communicate and preserve their culture, but also stands as a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Sequoyah was born around 1770 in the Cherokee town of Tuskegee, located in modern-day Tennessee. He was of mixed heritage. His mother, Wute, was Cherokee, and his father was believed to be a European trader. Though his identity remains uncertain to this day, raised with the maternal Cherokee culture, Sequoyah grew up surrounded by the rich oral traditions of his people. Despite his mixed ancestry, Sequoyah identified strongly with his Cherokee roots. As a young man, Sequoyah worked as a silversmith, a blacksmith, and an artist, and he displayed a keen eye for craftsmanship, earning a reputation for producing fine silver jewelry. However, he had little exposure to formal education and remained, quote-unquote, illiterate like most Cherokees of his time. During the late 19th century, Sequoyah observed the impact of written language among European settlers. He referred to writing as, quote-unquote, talking leaves, and he was fascinated by its ability to preserve information, facilitate governance, and communicate across distances. Determined to bring this power to his people, the Cherokee Nation, Sequoyah began developing a writing system for the Cherokee language around 1809. Creating a written language for the Cherokee, a polysynthetic language with complex verb forms, was an arduous task, but Sequoyah initially attempted to devise logograms, which logograms are symbols representing entire words. But he soon realized that this approach was impractical. He then shifted his focus to a syllabary, a system in which each symbol represents a syllable. After years of painstaking work, Sequoyah finalized a syllabary consisting of 85 different characters. Remarkably, he achieved this feat without any prior knowledge of linguistics or alphabetic principles. Each character in this system represented a distinct syllable in the Cherokee language, making it highly efficient and well-suited to Cherokee speech. Sequoyah faced skepticism from his community at first when they accused him of essentially witchcraft, but when he first introduced the syllabary, he demonstrated its effectiveness by teaching his young daughter, Ayoka, to read and write using his system. This ability to do this completely changed the Cherokee leaders and ultimately changed the route of the Cherokee people in accepting this new syllabary. By 1821, the Cherokee Nation had officially adopted the syllabary, and within a few years, literacy rates among the Cherokee skyrocketed, surpassing those of neighboring European American communities. The syllabary enabled the preservation of oral traditions, the documentation of laws, and the dissemination of news. The syllabary's impact extended far beyond individual literacy. In 1928, the Cherokee Nation published its first newspaper, the Cherokee Phoenix, in both the Cherokee language and the English language. This marked a very significant milestone in indigenous media and indigenous cultural preservation. The syllabary became a unifying tool for the Cherokee Nation, particularly during a time of increasing pressure from the U.S. government to assimilate or relocate. Sequoyah continued to promote Cherokee literacy and culture throughout his life, and in the 1820s he traveled to Arkansas and then later to Oklahoma, where he lived among the Cherokee who had relocated west of the Mississippi River. Sequoyah also embarked on journeys to unite various Cherokee factions and explore connections with other indigenous American groups. In the 1840s, Sequoyah traveled to Mexico as well, seeking to establish contact with the Cherokee who had settled there. It is believed that he died during this journey around 1843, although the exact circumstances of his death remain uncertain. Sequoyah's contributions to his people and to the world are absolutely monumental, and he is one of the few individuals in history to have independently created a functional writing system. His work is celebrated as a symbol of cultural resilience and innovation. Sequoyah's life and work epitomize the power of cultural pride and intellectual perseverance. By giving his people the gift of literacy, he safeguarded their language and traditions for future generations. And today, the Cherokee syllabary continues to be used, ensuring that Sequoyah's legacy lives on as a cornerstone of the Cherokee identity and heritage. Here's a few little fun facts about Sequoyah, just real quick. So the state of Oklahoma named Sequoyah County in his honor. The giant redwood trees of California, the Sequoia sempervirens, are named after him, symbolizing his enduring legacy. And there are many monuments, statues, and educational institutions across the United States that commemorate his achievements.